Welcome back to the channel, fellow travelers of the martial world. Tonight, the road beyond the great Li Empire grows colder, stranger, and far more dangerous. Beneath the shadow of horizontal mountain, while drunken scholars mock a forgotten goddess in the Azure Maiden Temple, Chen Ping'an sits quietly beside a campfire, practicing the same stubborn breathing techniques that may one day decide his fate. But peace on the mountain is only an illusion. Cui Dongshan's madness deepens with every failed attempt to become Chen Ping'an's disciple. Xie Xie reveals secrets about martial artists and cultivators beneath the whispering trees. An ancient spirit descends from the temple to play Go under ghostly firelight. And somewhere between mortal paths and immortal roads, Chen Ping'an begins to understand that every step he takes is drawing him closer to a world where strength decides everything. By dawn, the travelers will leave the mountain behind, only to witness how cruel the world beyond the empire truly is. This is chapter 134 to 136 of the legend of Chen Ping'an. A mountain road can be quieter than a battlefield, but in Unsheathed, silence is rarely peace. Sometimes the blade is not drawn. Sometimes the killing intent is hidden behind jokes, chest stones, old legends, and a young man standing alone on a tree branch, training his heart while the wind whispers through the leaves. This part of the journey gives us two very different kinds of tension. On one side, we have Liu Baqiao and Chen Songfeng, two old acquaintances speaking lightly on the surface, but circling matters that could shake entire continents. On the other side, we return to Chen Ping'an's traveling group, where children play, scholars scheme, ghosts are remembered, and one strange mountain temple casts a long shadow over the road ahead. Let us begin with Liu Baqiao. When Chen Songfeng sees Liu Baqiao arrive in Dragon Spring County, his first suspicion is almost laughably direct. Did this sword cultivator return because of that river goddess and her talisman? Liu Baqiao is offended at once, as if his entire reputation has been wounded. He insists he is not that sort of man. He claims he was merely passing by on his way back to Wind Lightning Field, heard that the Chen clan had established a school here, and decided to visit. But beneath that casual explanation, we can feel something more sincere. Liu Baqiao is the kind of friend who jokes loudly, complains easily, and acts carefree, yet his instincts are not cold. When he hears that Chen Songfeng has been sent to teach in this quiet corner, he comes to see him. Not to offer empty comfort from afar, but to stand nearby. This is important, because Unsheathed often measures friendship not through grand speeches, but through timing. A false friend appears during glory. A true friend appears before you even admit you are in trouble. Chen Songfeng, for his part, has changed. Once, he resisted teaching here. He wanted to leave, to escape this place, and whatever disappointment had been placed upon him. But now he frames it differently. He treats the assignment as a test of character. That is very Confucian in spirit. He may not be a cultivator, but he is cultivating something else. Temperament, patience, and acceptance. Then Liu Baqiao brings up a major incident that began near Red Candle Town and ended in the Great Li capital. The rumor mill is already raging, with every clan claiming to possess secret information, yet no one can agree on the truth. Liu Baqiao, who was in the capital when it happened, is ready to reveal what he knows, and Chen Songfeng refuses. This is one of those small moments that says a lot about his character. He says he is not an immortal cultivator, so he has no desire to chase immortal affairs. It sounds detached, even dull. Liu Baqiao mocks him for acting like an old man before his time. But then Liu Baqiao changes the bait. He mentions Stalactite Mountain. Immediately, Chen Songfeng wants to hear everything. Why the sudden interest? Because Stalactite Mountain is not just gossip from the cultivation world. It is a gate to events that may change the entire human world. Even someone outside cultivation must pay attention when the storm is large enough to drown mortals and immortals alike. This is where the chapter quietly widens the map. Liu Baqiao explains that sword cultivators from the far northeastern continent, that final sacred territory of swordsmen, were urgently summoned to Stalactite Mountain by two sword immortals. As they passed above Jewel's small world, their concealment was briefly lifted, allowing people from Eastern treasured vile continent to witness an astonishing sight. A sky filled with sword cultivators. Liu Baqiao compares them to locusts. Chen Songfeng thinks the comparison is unflattering, but Liu Baqiao sees it differently. A swarm of locusts leaves nothing behind. To him, that is not an insult. That is the terrifying beauty of sword cultivators when they move as one. And then Chen Songfeng reveals something he learned from Chen Dui. Roughly once every century, a great battle erupts at the foot of that immense city wall. This is not merely background lore. This is the frontier of the world, the place where sword cultivators sharpen themselves against calamity. Liu Baqiao admits he has always wanted to go there. Even if he could not become a hero, even if his contribution were tiny, he believes the battlefield itself would refine his swordsmanship. That tells us everything about him. Liu Baqiao is not satisfied with safe talent. He wants pressure. He wants danger. He wants the sword to be tested where life and death are real. But his sect, from master to grandmaster to senior brothers, all responded the same way. They called him a fool. And perhaps they are right. Because in Xianxia, yearning for the battlefield is often praised as courage, but it can also be arrogance. The difference is whether the swordsman understands the price. Liu Baqiao admires that distant wall, but the story hints that the wall is not a stage for young geniuses to polish their names. It is a graveyard where even legends may be reduced to swordlight and dust. The conversation then turns to Chen Ping'an. Chen Songfeng says Chen Ping'an has already left town, but his name has become impossible to ignore. The poor boy from Mud Bottle Alley has purchased 4 mountains. One of them, Downtrodden Mountain, even has an officially appointed mountain god now. Think about that transformation. Chen Ping'an began as someone with almost nothing. Now he owns mountains. But the most interesting part is not the wealth itself. It is what mountain ownership means in this world. A mountain is not just land. It is spiritual foundation. It is future territory. It is potential for sex, incense, gods, restrictions, hidden resources, and fate. Chen Ping'an may still act like a simple young man, but the world is already placing heavier pieces into his hands. Liu Baqiao remembers him fondly, especially the painfully salty pickled vegetables Chen Ping'an once brought. The joke is funny, but it also reminds us of Chen Ping'an's nature. His gifts are not refined luxuries. They are humble, practical, and unforgettable. Then the scene shifts into lighter territory. Liu Baqiao's impossible affection for Su Jia of Sun-Scorched Mountain, Chen Songfeng cannot understand it. With Liu Baqiao's background and cultivation, why would he be too timid to even speak to her? Liu Baqiao's answer is surprisingly vulnerable. He fears that if she actually meets him, she may not like him. In other words, his fantasy is safer than reality. This is a very human weakness. A sword cultivator may dare to dream of distant battlefields, yet tremble before the possibility of rejection. He can imagine facing sword chi beneath heaven, but not the eyes of a woman he admires. Chen Songfeng points out the obvious. If Liu Baqiao never meets her, she will never like him anyway. But Liu Baqiao clings to hope. As long as they have not met, the future remains untouched. The dream survives. That is both funny and pitiful. And when Chen Songfeng jokes that the next time Liu Baqiao sees her might be at her wedding, Liu Baqiao reacts as if struck by heavenly lightning, panicking and begging the gods and matchmakers to ignore such cursed words. This comedy matters because it softens the chapter before the road darkens again. Now we return to Chen Ping'an's group. They have left the Great Li Empire's border and are traveling toward Great Sui territory, passing through Yellow Court Nation. The journey is long, roughly 600 kilometers, and the language of the region changes as they move. This detail may seem small, but it shows that Chen Ping'an and the children are no longer protected by familiarity. They are crossing into wider lands, where customs, dialects, spirits, and dangers are different. At the rear of the group is a horse carriage. Yulu drives. Kui Chan sleeps inside as if he has turned laziness into a cultivation technique. Xie Xie, meanwhile, has blended into the group far better than expected. She plays go with Lin Shouyi, although plays may be too generous. She crushes him repeatedly. She also gets along well with Li Huai, joining his little battle games with painted dolls and clay figures. Strangely, the only child she truly avoids is Li Baoping, and Li Baoping returns the feeling in full. Chen Ping'an remains polite to Xie Xie and Yulu. But toward Kui Chan, he is stone. Kui Chan has tried every shameless method possible to become Chen Ping'an's student. He flatters him. He bargains. He bribes the children. He even threatens that if Chen Ping'an refuses, he will kill Chen Ping'an and then end himself. But Chen Ping'an's answer is colder than a drawn blade. He tells him in essence that Cui Dongshan and Chen Ping'an are two separate people, and if death comes, only one tombstone is needed. Whoever lives can carve the other's name on it. This response completely defeats Cui Chan. Why? Because Chen Ping'an does not negotiate with madness by becoming afraid of it. He refuses to be emotionally trapped. Cui Chan tries to turn discipleship into a life-and-death threat, but Chen Ping'an turns the threat back into plain consequence. You want death? Then death is all that remains. No drama, no surrender, no fear. And even when Cui Chan thinks of attacking him, the old scholar's hidden restriction punishes him. His hands swell and burn as if struck by invisible discipline. This is a brilliant detail. Cui Chan may be dangerous, cunning, and ancient in mind, but he is still bound. He is a tiger with chains around its paws. As dusk falls, the group reaches Horizontal Mountain. Cui Chan, unusually awake, warns them about the place. He describes an Azure Maiden Temple, an ancient cypress tree, and an old legend of a loyal official's daughter who died by her own sword rather than flee. Her blood entered the roots of the tree, and her spirit became bound to it. Cui Chan insists that the stories surrounding the temple are not evil. Strange things have happened there, but supposedly with good outcomes. Still, Chen Ping'an is uneasy. After the earlier bridal ghost incident, ghost stories no longer feel like stories. To him, spirits are not distant legends from books. They are things that can step into the road, wear human sorrow, and drag the living into danger. And he is not the only one unsettled. The children feel it. Even the yin god feels caution. That matters. When even a spiritual being grows wary, the audience should pay attention. The group chooses not to climb carelessly into the night. They travel until they find open ground halfway up the mountain and make camp. Around the fire, the different temperaments of the group reveal themselves. Li Baoping reads her travel journal, still bright with curiosity. Lin Shouyi avoids showing his cultivation scripture in front of Yu Lu and Xie Xie, choosing instead to study the mountain scouring album, filled with images of ghosts and spirits. Li Huai plays with his little figures, and Xie Xie joins him as usual. Then Yu Lu challenges Lin Shouyi to go. This seems harmless, but it quietly exposes another hidden layer. Lin Shouyi has been losing badly to Xie Xie, whose skill is far beyond his. Against Yu Lu, however, the games feel close. Yu Lu's style is gentle, steady, almost modest. He makes no ugly mistakes and no dazzling attacks. He wins by a narrow margin, leaving the board looking balanced until the end. But Cui Chan sees through it at once. He declares that Yu Lu has been hiding his strength, deliberately keeping the games close. This is not just about Go. In Unsheathed, games often mirror cultivation, politics, and personality. Xie Xie overwhelms directly. Yu Lu conceals himself. Lin Shouyi studies earnestly, but his vision is still limited. Yu Lu's mildness may be real, but it is not simplicity. He knows how to make victory look gentle. That is a dangerous kind of intelligence. Cui Chan, desperate to be useful, offers to teach Lin Shouyi enough Go skill to defeat both Yu Lu and Xie Xie. Lin Shouyi responds with a smile, telling him to come back after he successfully becomes Chen Ping'an's student. Once again, Cui Chan is struck where it hurts most. His schemes, knowledge, and ancient pride all crash against one immovable fact. Chen Ping'an still refuses him. And while all this happens, Chen Ping'an is away from the fire. He stands on a tree branch, balanced and silent, practicing his daily standing meditation. The branch bends beneath him. The mountain wind brushes his face. The world seems to murmur around him. This ending is quiet, but it is powerful. Chen Ping'an is not playing games. He is not chasing gossip. He is not boasting of sword Dao or immortal fate. He is training. A young man with mountains to his name, enemies behind him, strange companions beside him, and ghostly legends ahead of him, still returns to the simplest discipline. Stand firm, breathe, endure. That is Chen Ping'an's path. Not dazzling, not arrogant, not loud, but steady enough that even heaven may one day have to take notice. And now the question is this. Is Horizontal Mountain merely another stop on the journey, a place of old stories and harmless spirits? Or has the group already stepped beneath the shadow of a waiting fate, where an ancient cypress, a dead maiden's resentment, and Chen Ping'an's unshaken heart are about to collide. A sacred mountain does not always tremble when men insult the heavens. Sometimes it only sighs, and that quiet sigh is more frightening than thunder. At the summit of Horizontal Mountain, beneath the shadow of an ancient cypress, a small nameless temple stands in the night. No plaque, no grand inscription, no warning carved into stone. Only lantern light, a divine statue, and a group of young noblemen who have drunk far more wine than wisdom. Outside, servants whisper beneath the tree. Inside, arrogance spills louder than the wine. These men come from comfortable backgrounds. They speak of court matters, worldly affairs, politics, and reputation, as if the world were a game board placed in front of them. But wine strips away manners, and soon their laughter turns toward the statue of the Azure Maiden. One drunken man raises his cup and challenges the goddess herself. He mocks her silence, invites her to descend, and treats divine presence like entertainment for the night. Another goes even further, joking that he could take the statue down and turn blasphemy into a vulgar story to boast about later. And here is the terrifying part. Nothing happens. No lightning strikes. No divine punishment falls. The lanterns still burn. The wine still flows. The fools still laugh. But within the temple, there is a sigh too soft for mortal ears. In Wuxia and Xianxia worlds, this kind of moment is rarely meaningless. When gods do not respond, it does not always mean they are powerless. Sometimes it means the debt has been recorded. Sometimes heaven does not punish immediately, because fate prefers to sharpen the knife first. While foolish men laugh at a mountain shrine, halfway down the same mountain, Chen Ping'an stands on a tree branch, practicing standing meditation. This contrast is important. At the summit, noble sons waste their bodies and words in drunken disrespect. On the slope, a poor young man silently rebuilds himself one breath at a time. That is the hidden rhythm of this chapter. One group squanders what they were born with. Chen Ping'an fights to recover what was taken from him. Then Xie Xie arrives. She comes holding a branch, smiling upward at him with that naturally charming manner of hers. But this is not just a casual visit. When she moves, she reveals something more. With a few agile steps, using tree after tree as footholds, she rises into the branches almost effortlessly. This is the difference between appearance and truth. Xie Xie may speak gently, she may act playful, but she is a cultivator, and even a casual movement from her carries the weight of another path. She sits near Chen Ping'an and begins by explaining the old divide between martial artists and cultivators. In the eyes of many cultivators, martial artists are people who failed to enter the higher road. They walk the so-called 9 lowly tiers, while cultivators pursue the immortal path. Xie Xie compares it to the difference between official court rank and unofficial servants of power. One side looks down from above, the other resents from below. But Chen Ping'an immediately sees through the opening. He asks why she is telling him this, and that question reveals one of his strongest traits. Chen Ping'an may not be educated like a scholar, and he may not know the secret language of sects and great clans, but he is not easy to guide by the nose. He listens carefully, yet his heart remains steady. So Xie Xie admits the truth. Cui Dongshan has asked her to help speak on his behalf. This is almost funny, but also very revealing. Cui Dongshan, with all his schemes, knowledge and strange confidence, has been repeatedly rejected by Chen Ping'an. Now he is reduced to bribing someone else just to soften the boy's attitude, and the bribe is not small. Xie Xie wanted Cui Dongshan's ownerless flying sword, but he refused. Instead, he promised her a fish bug flute, a beautiful treasure once connected to the Lu Empire's secret imperial collection and the old alliance between a sect and the founding emperor. This tells us 2 things. First, Cui Dongshan is desperate enough to spend treasure. Second, Xie Xie is honest enough to admit she came because she wanted the reward. That honesty makes the scene interesting. She is not pretending to be noble. She is not acting like a loyal mediator. She wants the flute. She likes beautiful things. And in this world, even a casual favor can become a transaction involving imperial relics and cultivation treasures. Chen Ping'an does not make things difficult for her. He simply says that if Cui Dongshan asks, he will say she has already spoken for him, but then he asks for something in return. He wants to hear more about martial arts. This is where the chapter turns from comedy and intrigue into cultivation explanation. Xie Xie explains that although she is a cultivator, the lower stages of cultivation involve bodily refinement, so there is some overlap with martial arts. The human body contains hundreds of acupoints, connected like mountains and rivers beneath the skin. To a martial artist, the first tier is about finding that first strand of inner qi and settling it into a suitable acupoint. This may sound simple, but it is the foundation of everything. In Xianxia logic, the body is not just flesh, it is a hidden landscape. Acupoints are not merely points in the body. They are gates, caves, cities, and small worlds waiting to be awakened. Xie Xie explains that talent depends on several things: how early someone discovers that inner qi, where that qi settles, and how strong, dense, and enduring that qi is. Her comparison is sharp. One martial artist may settle their qi in a useless corner, like occupying a forgotten hill. Another may claim a prosperous town. A true prodigy might begin from a place as important as an imperial capital. This is power scaling expressed through geography. A person's body becomes a kingdom. The first acupoint becomes the capital. The meridians become roads. The qi becomes the first army. And if the first capital is weak, the road ahead becomes harder. Chen Ping'an listens closely. Even when he has heard something before, he wants to hear it again. That detail matters. He is not chasing novelty, he is building certainty. For someone with little margin for error, repetition is not boring. It is survival. Xie Xie then touches on an even deeper concept, the bonded flying sword. A true swordsman's flying sword can be nurtured inside a bonded acupoint. When released, it takes form and kills. When recalled, it returns to a mysterious, intangible state within the body. This is not merely a weapon. It is a companion of the soul, a blade raised inside one's own inner world. That explanation also helps us understand why Cui Dongshan's flying sword is so valuable. In this setting, a sword is not just metal. A sword can become destiny, identity, and Tao path. Xie Xie says her master once described acupoints as small worlds, almost like pocket treasures. If someone fully refines and controls a bonded acupoint, it may hold something as light as a sword or as vast as a mountain. This is one of those ideas that makes the Xianxia world feel enormous. The body is small, but the Tao is boundless. A person may look ordinary from the outside, yet inside them may be a hidden realm, a sword cave, a treasure vault, or a mountain waiting to rise. For martial artists, the second tier is about expanding from that first acupoint. The meridians are like rough mountain paths that must be widened into proper roads. Different martial arts open different routes. Fist techniques, weapon techniques, secret clan methods, and sect inheritances all shape the body in different ways. This is why martial arts cannot be reduced to punching harder. Every style is a map. Every method chooses which roads to build. Every secret manual is, in truth, a plan for remaking the body. Xie Xie observes that Chen Ping'an is already laying the foundation of the second tier. His walking meditation, standing meditation, and fist practice are all signs of someone slowly opening those inner roads. She even believes that at his current pace, he may reach the third tier soon. Then she asks where his bonded acupoint is. Chen Ping'an refuses. No hesitation, no explanation, just refusal. And that refusal is exactly who he is. Xie Xie finds it stingy, but she also understands. Chen Ping'an is not someone who exposes his vital points just because the conversation is friendly. His trust is not cheap. His secrets are not decorations for others to admire. Some people might call him stubborn. Others might call him dull. But in the Jianghu, a person like this survives precisely because his heart is like stone. Then Chen Ping'an asks why she thinks he will advance quickly. Xie Xie's answer is practical and harsh. Martial artists rely on that internal qi, but using it damages the body. Their strength is bought with wear and injury. If they remain too long in the lower tiers, their qi can be depleted through training and battle. Many martial artists, especially those without guidance, destroy themselves before they ever become strong. This is a brutal truth of the martial path. Cultivators chase longevity through heaven and earth. Martial artists burn themselves from within. Rich clans may use medicinal baths and precious ingredients to patch injuries, but that only treats the surface. The deeper problem remains. Until a martial artist reaches the higher stages and can nourish the soul in return, every step carries danger. Xie Xie also explains that while martial arts does not lead to true immortality, the highest martial artists can still live for a century or two. She mentions the 9th tier, and even the legendary 10th tier, which stands beyond what many ordinary martial artists know. That single hint expands the world again. Ju Hei, a capable 5th tier martial artist, believes the 9th tier is the end. Many in the world think the same. But above the so-called end, there is still another heaven. This is classic Xianjia storytelling. The moment someone says they have reached the peak, the story reveals a higher mountain hidden behind the clouds. But Chen Ping'an does not fully agree with her view of speed. He says that a genius may rush upward, but someone like him cannot afford to hurry blindly. If his aptitude is ordinary, then each step must be stable. As long as he does not make mistakes, he is moving in the right direction. This is one of the most important insights in the chapter. Chen Ping'an's Dao heart is not built on brilliance, it is built on endurance. He does not train because he dreams of showing off among experts. He says he only wants to strengthen his body. Though the deeper truth is harsher, he trains because he wants to live. His body has already been damaged. His chance at ordinary cultivation was taken from him. His accumulated lifespan was drained away during earlier calamities. He is like an old broken house with wind leaking through every crack. But even a broken house can be repaired, plank by plank. That is Chen Ping'an's path. Not soaring, not dazzling, repairing, enduring, continuing. And that makes him very different from the proud young men drinking at the summit. They treat inherited safety as something endless. Chen Ping'an treats every breath as something that must be guarded. Xie Xie accepts his reasoning, though she herself does not fully understand the fine details of martial arts. She is a cultivator, so she naturally interprets the martial path through a cultivator's lens. She has seen more than Ju Hei in some ways, but Ju Hei understands martial instruction more deeply. Each of them has a piece of the truth, but not the whole truth. This is another subtle theme of the chapter. Knowledge depends on where you stand. The cultivator sees broad horizons. The martial teacher sees the texture of each step. Chen Ping'an, standing between ruin and recovery, listens to everyone but must choose his own road. Near the end of this section, Chen Ping'an asks a question that many ordinary people in this world would wonder about. He always imagined cultivators as transcendent beings, far above the dust of mortals. So why do even cultivators have to refine the body? That question connects directly to his past experience. He remembers being warned that even restricted cultivators, whose magical powers were suppressed, still possessed physical bodies far beyond ordinary people. Even without using grand spells, such figures could kill someone like him with a single blow. This is a key lesson in the power system. Cultivation is not only flying swords, talismans, and immortal techniques. Before one can borrow the power of heaven and earth, one must first make the body capable of carrying it. A weak vessel cannot hold strong wine. A cracked furnace cannot refine divine medicine. A fragile body cannot walk far on the immortal path. And so the chapter leaves us with two images. At the summit, arrogance laughs before a silent goddess. On the mountain slope, Chen Ping'an quietly asks how the body becomes strong enough to survive the world. One scene shows disrespect toward heaven. The other shows a young man learning how not to be crushed by it. And that is why this chapter matters. It is not just a conversation about tears and acupoints. It is a reminder that the path of power begins with humility. The loudest people in the temple may think they are fearless, but Chen Ping'an, the boy who admits he must walk slowly, may be the one with the stronger heart. The question now is simple. When heaven finally answers that sigh in the temple, who will still be standing on the mountain? A mountain spirit comes down from the moonlit peak. A hidden master cries because his own heart has become a prison. And a 14-year-old boy receives a farewell that feels almost like a blessing from fate itself. This part of the story may seem quiet on the surface. No sword duel, no thunderous immortal battle, no divine treasure splitting the sky. But in true unsheathed fashion, the chapter hides its sharpest blade inside stillness. Because tonight, the real movement is not in the forest, not beside the campfire, and not even on the go-board. It is inside Chen Ping'an. At this point in the journey, Chen Ping'an is still not a formal cultivator in the grand, dazzling sense. He is not someone who can call clouds, ride swords, or shake mountains with a casual wave of the sleeve. And yet, the foundations being laid inside him are terrifyingly important. Xie Xie explains something crucial about cultivation. To ordinary people, cultivators look like carefree immortals, drifting above dust and suffering. But to those who actually walk that path, the truth is far less romantic. Qi refinement is everything. The body is not merely flesh. It is the vessel that must withstand heaven and earth's spiritual energy. Her explanation is simple, but meaningful. A weak vessel cannot hold strong wine. A fragile body cannot carry a vast Tao. This is one of those Xianxia ideas that sounds basic, but it quietly defines the whole cultivation world. Talent matters, resources matter, inheritance matters. But if the body itself cannot endure the force of spiritual energy, then even the brightest road to immortality will eventually crack beneath one's feet. And this is where Chen Ping'an becomes fascinating. He listens, but he does not reveal everything. He knows he lacks formal schooling, but he is not foolish. He understands that a person must sometimes guard their secrets like guarding a life-saving sword. So he says nothing about the strange flow of qi inside his body. He says nothing about the acupoints that have begun to change, and he certainly does not casually expose the 18 stops method that Aliang passed down to him. This restraint tells us a lot about Chen Ping'an. He is honest, but not naive. Simple, but not careless. Trusting, but not loose-tongued. That difference matters. In the martial world, a secret technique is not just knowledge. It can be a shield, a weapon, a future, or even a death sentence if revealed to the wrong person. Inside Chen Ping'an, that fiery strand of qi has already chosen its resting places. One of them is near the dantian, the root of inner power. The other is an acupoint once connected to the sword qi that vanished after his battle with the white python on Go Table Mountain. The moment that place became empty, the new qi entered it as if heaven had opened a seat reserved just for it. This is not treated like a grand breakthrough, but it should not be underestimated. Chen Ping'an's cultivation is not flashy. It is quiet accumulation. It is breath after breath, step after step, punch after punch. The mountain shaking guide may look simple to outsiders, but when paired with his stubborn breathing discipline and the 18 stops, it becomes something deeper. A poor boy's way of carving a road where no road was given, and that is why old man Yao's old teaching still weighs so heavily on him. What belongs to you, hold it tightly. What does not belong to you, do not covet it. When Chen Ping'an had nothing, the second half protected his heart from greed. Now that he has gained a little money, a little opportunity, and a glimpse of a greater path, the first half becomes his commandment. Do your best. Hold what is yours. Do not waste what heaven, hardship, and good people have placed in your hands. This is Chen Ping'an's Tao heart before he even fully understands what a Tao heart is. While he returns to camp, Xie Xie remains beneath the moon, and then Cui Chan appears. The atmosphere changes immediately. Whenever Cui Chan enters a scene, the story becomes dangerous in a different way. He is not merely strong, he is intellectually dangerous, emotionally unstable, politically and philosophically tangled. Even when he speaks casually, there is usually a hook buried somewhere inside the sentence. He explains why he wanted Xie Xie to speak with Chen Ping'an. Chen Ping'an closes himself off whenever Cui Chan approaches, like a city sealing its gates at the sight of an enemy army. With the children, Chen Ping'an is warmer. With Xie Xie, perhaps he may speak more naturally. Cui Chan wants someone to draw out the true shape of Chen Ping'an's limits. This is manipulation, but it is also observation. Cui Chan studies people like a cultivator studying a formation. Where is the weak point? Where is the hidden gate? Where does the qi flow and where does it refuse to move? But then the scene turns inward and we see Cui Chan's own horror. He reveals that something has been engraved onto his soul. Certain emotions are being magnified beyond his control. When they burst out, they feel real in the moment, but afterward he can look back and feel terror at himself. This is one of the most disturbing parts of his character. Cui Chan is brilliant, but brilliance does not save him from being wounded. His mind may be sharp enough to dissect the teachings of Confucianism, Buddhism, Taoism, and every school beneath heaven. But his own soul has been tampered with. He is both strategist and victim, both predator and prisoner. Xie Xie makes the mistake of teasing him, and the mask drops. Cui-chan reminds her that he cannot act freely against Chen Ping'an, but that does not mean he is harmless. Against someone like Xie Xie, he can still be ruthless. In that moment, the absurd, childish Cui-chan vanishes, and the old danger beneath his skin looks out. This is a warning to Xie Xie, but also to us as viewers. Never confuse humiliation with weakness. Never confuse emotional chaos with lack of power. And never assume Cui-chan's tears make him safe. His later words are even more revealing. He wonders about the great teachings, Taoism's height, Buddhism's vastness, Confucianism's order. He asks whether other paths can truly rise beside them. He questions whether he must follow a road similar to Qi Jingchun's, gaining independence through learning and experience. Here, the chapter briefly opens a window into a much larger conflict. This is no longer just about a group of children traveling south. It is about inheritance, doctrine, freedom. The struggle to escape the shadow of a master, a system, or a fate written by someone else. Cui-chan's tears return, but this time they are not funny. They are frightening. Because when a man like him suffers, the suffering does not stay contained. It becomes debt. It becomes schemes. It becomes future calamity. And Xie Xie realizes too late that she has heard things she should never have heard. Meanwhile, Chen Ping'an reaches the campsite and finds something completely unexpected. A pale woman in white has joined the group by the fire. She is not alive in the ordinary sense. Her lips carry an eerie dark color, and her presence belongs more to temple incense and mountain mist than to the mortal world. Yet she is not attacking anyone. She is sitting by the fire, playing Go against Lin Shouyi. The woman is the spirit of the Azure Maiden Temple on the summit. In life, she loved the game of Go. Tonight, unable to endure the noise of scholars drinking and causing a commotion in her own temple, she has wandered down the mountain and found Lin Shouyi studying the board alone. This scene is wonderful because it blends the supernatural with the ordinary. A mountain spirit does not appear with thunder. She appears because scholars are too loud. She does not demand worship. She wants a game of Go. That is very Unsheathed. The world is full of gods, ghosts, scholars, cultivators, and strange beings, but they still have personalities, they still have annoyances, they still seek small joys. Li Huai, of course, explains everything in his excited way. The Yin god has already questioned her and judged that she means no harm. Lin Shouyi, reserved and disciplined as always, accepts the match. Li Baoping cannot resist commenting on the moves. Yulu keeps his distance. Chen Ping'an, careful by instinct, does not rush forward. He first checks the Yin god's reaction. That detail is important. Chen Ping'an is kind, but after the bridal ghost incident, he understands that not every spirit can be trusted just because it looks pitiful or polite. In this world, even a good reputation does not guarantee official protection. A deity outside the recognized order may still be treated like a ghost. In a way, the Azure Maiden spirit and Lin Shouyi share a similar loneliness. Both are talented, both are adrift, and both lack a secure place in the world. Chen Ping'an quietly adds wood to the fire and reassures Lin Shouyi with a gesture. He does not interfere, he does not judge, he simply lets his companion continue. That is one of Chen Ping'an's understated strengths. He often protects people not by speaking loudly, but by giving them space without withdrawing his care. Then the emotional heart of the chapter arrives. The Yin god sits beside Chen Ping'an and says he must leave. At first it seems like an ordinary farewell, but then he reveals his true face for just a moment, and Chen Ping'an recognizes him. The meaning lands like a silent bell. This Yin god is connected to Gu Kan. Through a secret message, he thanks Chen Ping'an for taking care of Little Kan all these years. He remembers even the small kindness of the catfish Chen Ping'an once gave. He says he does not know how to repay such care, and that if circumstances allowed, he would be willing to give his life in return. Chen Ping'an's reaction is beautiful because it contains two emotions at once. He is happy for Gu Kan, and he is sad for himself. Happy because someone connected to that boy still remembers gratitude. Sad because every farewell reminds Chen Ping'an of how many people he has already lost, and how many bonds in this world cannot be held forever. Before leaving, the Yin god gives Chen Ping'an a blessing of belief. He says, in essence, that Chen Ping'an will one day reach a very high place. For many protagonists, such words would sound like destiny confirming itself. For Chen Ping'an, they feel heavier because he is still only 14. 14, walking in straw sandals. 14, carrying old teachings like treasures. 14, practicing breath and fist in silence. 14, surrounded by children's spirits, schemes, ghosts, and hidden debts he cannot yet fully understand. The chapter closes by telling us everyone's age. And that detail is not random. Chen Ping'an is 14, Cui Chan is 15, Lin Shouyi is 12, Li Baoping is 9, Li Huai is 7, Yu Lu is 14, Xie Xie is 13. In another world, they would simply be children. But in this world, children are already carrying nations, teachings, grudges, cultivation paths, family tragedies, and the attention of powers far above them. That is the quiet tragedy of this journey. The road south is not just a road through mountains and borders. It is the beginning of several destinies being forced to grow too early. And tonight, beneath the moon of Horizontal Mountain, three things become clear. Chen Ping'an's foundation is deepening. Cui Chan's instability is far more dangerous than it looks, and the unseen ties around Gu Kan, the Yin god, and Chen Ping'an are not finished yet. So the real question is not whether Chen Ping'an can keep walking. The real question is this. When heaven finally demands payment for all these hidden blessings, secret techniques, and old debts, will a 14-year-old boy in straw sandals still be able to hold on to what is truly his? Before a blade is drawn, before an enemy appears, this chapter places its true battlefield somewhere far more dangerous. Inside the hearts of people walking the Great Tao. Because sometimes, the most powerful moment in a Shanxia journey is not a duel beneath thunderclouds. Sometimes, it is a tired boy beside a campfire learning when anger must be swallowed. Sometimes, it is a proud strategist mocked by the world, receiving one honest bow in the darkness. And sometimes it is a ghost, despised by heaven and earth, reminding a living man what respect truly means. At first glance, this part of the journey seems quiet. Chen Ping'an and the children are only resting for the night. The camp is simple, the tents are crude, and the fire is small. Li Baoping is already exhausted. Li Huai cannot keep his eyes open. Yu Lu is used to sleeping near the carriage. Xie Xie returns, warms her hands, and gives little attention to the game of Go that Lin Shouyi has been playing with the Azure Maiden. But beneath this peaceful surface, the chapter is quietly arranging three mirrors. One mirror reflects ordinary kindness. One mirror reflects doctrine and ambition. And one mirror reflects the anger of a young scholar who has just seen ugliness hidden beneath the robe of culture. Chen Ping'an's group has not always slept in the wilderness. Along the road they have found inns, temples, and even once during storm and darkness, the residence of a retired minister. That old man, despite being from Great Sui and knowing the children came from Great Li, still welcomed them with generosity. This detail matters more than it first appears. In a world where empires are enemies, where borders carry grudges and politics can decide who lives or dies, the old minister chooses the older law of hospitality. He sees children travelling for learning, and he treats them not as enemies, but as guests under heaven. That is very much the moral world of Unsheathed. A nation may be hostile, a court may be ruthless, but a single person can still keep a lamp burning in the mountains. The old minister's refined food, his care for etiquette, and his love of books all leave a deep impression on Chen Ping'an's little group. For these children from a rougher background, that visit becomes almost like glimpsing another realm. Not a cultivation realm of sword chi and divine ability, but a realm of culture, learning, and quiet dignity. And then comes the mysterious cliff. The cliff beside the river bears ancient engravings no one can fully understand. Scholars have argued over it for generations. Rubbings have spread through Yellow Court Nation and Great Sui, yet the meaning remains sealed. Cui Chan, however, takes one distant look and casually claims the writing came from the Heavenly Lord of Lightning, carrying a warning from the Heavenly Emperor to a flood dragon, to the retired minister. This sounds absurd. How could generations of scholars fail, while a teenage boy simply looks once and declares the answer? But for us as viewers, this moment is a reminder. Cui Chan is not an ordinary boy. He stands in the story like a damaged immortal artifact, cracked on the outside but still terrifyingly sharp. Whether he is right or not is less important than the atmosphere created here. Around him, knowledge is never innocent. Ancient script, heavenly warnings, dragons, emperors, calamity. These are not decorations. They are signs that the road ahead is tied to forces much larger than the children understand. And yet, after all that mystery, the story returns to something beautifully human. Chen Ping'an cooks in the wilderness. After experiencing the refined meals of Minister Ma's estate, the others begin looking at his simple cooking strangely. Li Baoping even tries to reassure him that his food is truly good, just as good as what they had at the old minister's house. This little moment carries emotional warmth. Li Baoping is not judging him. She is protecting him. She knows Chen Ping'an is sensitive to sincerity. He may be poor, plain, and practical, but the people around him are beginning to understand the weight of his efforts. Chen Ping'an is not a young master with endless treasures. He is not someone who dazzles with immortal techniques. His way of caring is to build a tent, cook a meal, watch the night road, and worry when someone leaves the campsite. That is his Dao heart in its earliest and most grounded form. Then Lin Shouyi chooses to accompany the Azure Maiden back up the mountain to retrieve a hidden Go manual from her temple wall. This may sound like a small errand, but in Wuxia and Xianxia storytelling, night journeys with spirits are never meaningless. The Azure Maiden glides above the ground. Obeying strange mountain restrictions, a green ghostly flame lights the path. Yet the scene is not terrifying. Instead, it feels almost elegant, like a candlelit walk from an old travel journal. That contrast is important. The supernatural is not always evil. The human world is not always pure. And as this chapter soon shows, the real filth may not come from ghosts at all. While Lin Shouyi walks with the Azure Maiden, the story shifts to Cui Chan. He remains alone on a branch in the night, surrounded by ominous bird cries. These birds are considered bad omens in Yellow Court Nation, and their cries fit Cui Chan's mood perfectly. He is a man carrying too many calculations, too many defeats, and too many unresolved schemes. Then the Yin god appears like black smoke moving through the forest. This conversation is the spiritual core of the chapter. The Yin god is preparing to leave. The protective amulets granted by Old Man Yang can shield him from astral winds and dangerous passes, but only barely. He has already gone farther than planned by accompanying the group into Yellow Court Nation, and if he continues, the journey may become too dangerous. In cultivation terms, this reminds us that a Yin god is not free in the way a living cultivator is free. Such a being moves through the world under pressure from heaven, geography, and invisible laws. Roads, borders, winds, city passes, all of these can become blades against a spirit body. The Yin god is not simply going home. He is retreating before the world itself wears him down. Before leaving, he urges Cui Chan to handle matters with Chen Ping'an and the others peacefully. That request reveals something gentle beneath his ghostly nature. He has repaid a debt, yes, but he also genuinely values Chen Ping'an. Cui Chan's answer is polite but cautious. He says he will try. And that is very Cui Chan. He does not promise heaven. He does not swear loyalty. He offers only what a schemer can honestly offer, an attempt. Then the Yin god asks whether Cui Chan believes in karma. Cui Chan rejects the idea. He does not believe that virtue and reward are neatly balanced by heaven. His worldview is not built on gentle moral accounting. It is built on achievement, statecraft, utility, and the brutal weight of outcomes. This is where the chapter briefly exposes the divide between different paths of the Tao. Some cultivators believe in karmic accumulation. Some scholars believe in moral self-cultivation. Some statesmen believe that results matter more than reputation. Cui Chan belongs to the last group. He even turns the conversation back on the Yin god, warning him that his wife and son may become pawns in the hands of the river-severing true lord of Lake Shujian. This is classic Cui Chan. Even when speaking with courtesy, he stabs directly into the hidden wound. But the Yin god does not explode in anger. He only admits helplessness. There are limits to what humans can do, and even greater limits for a Yin being rejected by heaven and earth. Cui Chan then offers a rare piece of encouragement. He says the road of the great Tao has no absolute dead end. Some paths are merely harder. Yin energy can become spirit. Yang energy can become God. Even a being like the Yin god may someday have a chance at divine ascension. This matters because Cui Chan, for all his coldness, is not a flat villain. He sees systems. He sees possibilities. He sees roads where others see only fate. His compassion, if we can call it that, does not come wrapped in warmth. It comes wrapped in theory. Then comes the moment that changes the atmosphere entirely. The Yin god reveals that he did not stay merely to ask about Chen Ping'an. He stayed to express admiration. He respects Cui Chan's doctrine. The doctrine that values practical ability, contribution to the empire, and real benefit to the people. Many Confucians condemn Cui Chan. He has more critics than supporters. But the Yin god believes that, over centuries and millennia, this doctrine may one day be understood and embraced. For Cui Chan, this is not a small compliment. This is a man who has been criticized, opposed, and misunderstood by the scholarly world, receiving recognition from someone who has nothing to gain from flattering him. The Yin god even bows, not to the imperial preceptor of Great Li, but to the thinker who dared to put forward a new path despite condemnation. That bow is the true dusting off clothes moment of the chapter. It cleans something from Cui Chan's spirit, not guilt, not sin, not ambition. But perhaps, for a brief moment, it dusts away the loneliness of being hated while still believing one is right. After the Yin god leaves, Cui Chan slowly regains himself. The defeated look fades from his eyes. He straightens, shakes out his sleeves, clasps his hands behind his back, and once again becomes filled with purpose. This is a brilliant character beat. Cui Chan does not receive a treasure. He does not break through a cultivation realm. He receives recognition. And for someone like him, recognition can be stronger than medicine, sharper than sword chi, and more dangerous than any talisman, because now his Dao heart has been steadied again. And a steadied Cui Chan is never harmless. The chapter then returns to the camp, where Lin Shouyi comes back furious, clutching an ancient book. His anger is not from danger, it is from disgust. At the Azure Maiden Temple, he has witnessed scholars behaving disgracefully. The exact ugliness is not dwelled upon here, and the narration does not need to linger on it. What matters is Lin Shouyi's reaction. He feels that these men, who should embody learning and restraint, have shamed scholars everywhere. This is a key moment for Lin Shouyi. He is still young. His sense of right and wrong is sharp, almost too sharp. To him, if people insult the dignity of scholarship, they should be thrown out. His anger is clean, but it is also inexperienced. Chen Ping'an responds in a very Chen Ping'an way. He does not ask for a dramatic punishment. He does not encourage righteous violence. He first asks whether the Azure Maiden herself acted against them. When Lin Shouyi admits she did not, Chen Ping'an gives him a simple lesson. If the person most directly involved has chosen endurance, then he must learn to accept that reality. This is not cowardice. It is one of the hardest lessons on the martial road. Not every injustice can be solved by drawing a sword, and not every anger belongs to you. For a young cultivator, this is especially important. Rage can become killing intent. Killing intent can become action. And action, once taken, creates karma, enemies, consequences, and chains that may never be broken. Chen Ping'an's calmness affects Lin Shouyi immediately. Just seeing his face steadies him. That tells us something powerful about Chen Ping'an's role in this group. He may not be the strongest, he may not be the most learned, he may not understand every ancient secret, but he has a kind of grounded moral gravity. Around him, people become less reckless. Around him, emotions settle. Around him, the road feels a little less chaotic, and that may be one of the earliest signs of the kind of person he is becoming. So what does this chapter really do? It does not give us a grand battle. It gives us three kinds of cultivation. The Azure Maiden and Lin Shouyi show the cultivation of restraint in the face of ugliness. The Yin god shows the cultivation of gratitude and respect, even while walking a road rejected by heaven. Cui Chan shows the cultivation of ambition, doctrine, and self-belief. Dangerous, wounded, but undeniably powerful. And Chen Ping'an shows the cultivation of daily conduct. Cooking, watching, asking, advising, enduring. In many Shanxia stories, cultivation means absorbing spiritual energy and breaking through realms. But in Unsheathed, cultivation is also how a person carries a bowl of rice, how they accept insult, how they repay kindness, how they survive being misunderstood, and how they keep walking without letting the world twist their heart. This chapter quietly asks the audience a difficult question. Which is harder, to defeat an enemy with sword intent, or to see the filth of the world and still not let your own heart become filthy. And as the Yin god disappears into the long road back to Great Li, as Cui Chan regains his terrifying resolve, and as Lin Shouyi lowers his anger beside the campfire, one thing becomes clear. This journey is no longer just about reaching a school, it is about what kind of people these travelers will become before they arrive. Because on the immortal path, every mountain road tests the feet, but every quiet night tests the heart. One moment on a crowded street can teach a young traveler more than 1,000 pages of scripture. Chen Ping'an had already seen ghosts, gods, border passes, relay stations, and the strange dignity of the outside world. But in Yellow Court Nation, beneath the noise of merchants and city gates, he was about to see something colder. He was about to see how power behaves when no one dares to restrain it. Before that lesson arrived, the journey still moved with the quiet rhythm of the road. With Juhei gone, the group's nightly watch changed. Lin Shouyi guarded the first half of the night, while Chen Ping'an took the darker, lonelier hours before dawn. For most people, this kind of duty would be exhausting. The fire must be fed, the surroundings must be watched, the mind cannot drift too far. But Chen Ping'an was not most people. Years of hardship in the kilns had trained him in patience. Keeping a fire alive through the night was not merely a chore to him, it was almost a form of cultivation. In the past he had guarded flames for pottery, now he guarded flames for people. And that difference matters. Because Chen Ping'an's strength is not built on sudden enlightenment or glorious inheritance. It is built on repetition, endurance, and responsibility. Every small task becomes a brick in his Tao heart. While the others slept, he practiced the walking and standing methods from the mountain shaking guide. Inside his body, that strange current of qi moved like a living thing, travelling through his acupoints, rising from the lower body toward the head. It was not yet the grand river of a true immortal, but it was no longer the weak trickle of an ordinary youth either. This is the beauty of Chen Ping'an's cultivation path. It does not announce itself with thunder. It grows like fire beneath ash. He could sit in the lingering spring cold without suffering. He could train through the night and still walk during the day. His body was slowly becoming a vessel that hardship could no longer easily break. Then Yulu appeared. Carrying damp branches, he approached the campfire and carefully fed the flames, not carelessly, not like someone trying to show off. He added the wood piece by piece, with the kind of precision that reveals a person's nature. Yulu asked if he could help with the night watch, especially during the final hours before dawn. His reasoning sounded considerate. Chen Ping'an needed focus for training, and Yulu wished to be useful rather than remain a burden. Chen Ping'an declined. The refusal was polite, but the meaning was clear. Trust had not reached that point yet. And this is where the chapter becomes quietly sharp. Yulu does not protest. He does not take offense. He simply accepts it, leaving the offer open. That response tells us something important. Yulu is patient. He understands boundaries. He knows that trust cannot be demanded. But Chen Ping'an is also watching him. He has noticed Yulu's frightening ability to learn. Yulu observes a task only a few times and then performs it well. Straw sandal weaving, fishing, small habits, practical skills. Even in Go, Lin Shouyi believes Yulu's style is not dazzling, but deeper and more reliable than Xie Xie's aggressive approach. That kind of talent is not loud. It is more dangerous than loud talent. A flashy genius reveals his blade early. Yulu hides the blade inside ordinary movements. Chen Ping'an's judgment is simple but profound. If Yulu walks a righteous road, he may accomplish great things. But if he turns toward darkness, the consequences could be terrifying. That is not suspicion without reason. That is Chen Ping'an recognizing a truth of the Jianghu. Ability without virtue is a disaster waiting for the right weather. Dawn arrives without incident, but another small detail remains. In the distance, Cui Chan's carriage lamp burns through the entire night. He has also stayed awake, reading. This is another contrast. Chen Ping'an cultivates through labor and discipline. Cui Chan sharpens himself through knowledge, schemes, and calculation. One guards the fire, the other studies by lamplight. Both are awake while others sleep, but the paths they walk could not feel more different. At first light, Chen Ping'an goes up horizontal mountain to practice fist techniques. Li Baoping and Lin Shouyi join him. Li Huai, naturally, lacks their perseverance and soon escapes the training. That little detail gives the journey warmth. Not every child is born to chase hardship with clenched teeth, but Cui Chan's reaction is more interesting. Earlier, he looked down on Chen Ping'an's fist practice. To him, perhaps it seemed crude, low-level, almost laughable. Yet over time, he watches longer and longer. Why? Because Chen Ping'an's fist is not just a fist. It is discipline taking shape. It is a poor boy carving order into his body. It is the foundation of a future that even someone like Cui Chan cannot easily calculate. The movement may be simple, but the persistence behind it is not. Later, the group visits the Azure Maiden Temple. The place is in poor condition, messy and filled with the smell of alcohol. Li Huai looks at the deity statue and cannot connect it with the female spirit. Lin Shouyi had encountered before. Lin Shouyi explains that temple statues often reflect the wishes and flattery of worshippers rather than the true appearance of the deity. That explanation is small, but the meaning is large. At the foot of the mountain, gods are not only divine beings. They are also shaped by human memory, gratitude, fear, and imagination. A statue may be inaccurate, but worship can still be sincere. The outer form may be false, while the bond of incense remains real. Chen Ping'an and the children help clean the temple before leaving. This is not a grand heroic act, but it perfectly fits Chen Ping'an's nature. He respects places that protect ordinary people, even if they are forgotten by official records. Then Cui Chan enters with Yu Lu and notices the incense burner. Though the temple is not formally recognized, people have clearly worshipped there for many years. Cui Chan tells Yu Lu that when one encounters a temple, one should bow, because such gestures accumulate good karma with the land. Yu Lu does not fully understand, but he bows anyway. This moment is easy to overlook, but it reveals Cui Chan's worldview. To him, heaven, earth, spirits, customs, luck, and human power are all part of the same board. Even a bow is not merely respect, it is investment. It is strategy. It is a way to leave a thread of connection with the unseen forces of a place. After leaving the mountain, the group reaches a prefectural city of Yellow Court Nation. Compared to their small hometown, this is another world. Wide streets, official procedures. City gates, scholars and travelers. Political undercurrents hidden beneath polite treatment. Because Chen Ping'an's group carries documents from Great Li's Dragon Spring County, entry is smooth. Yellow Court Nation is not part of Great Li, but everyone can feel the shadow of Great Li's expansion moving south. Officials treat Great Li travelers carefully because they know the balance of power may soon change. This is the mortal world beneath the immortal world. Nations rise and fall. Officials flatter whoever may become master tomorrow. Even before armies arrive, fear has already entered the paperwork. Chen Ping'an, however, is not thinking like a politician. He wants the children to see famous temples, rivers, and cities on the way to Mountain Cliff Academy. He does not want their journey to become nothing but hunger, danger, and dusty roads. That wish is deeply tender. Chen Ping'an has suffered so much that he understands the value of scenery. He wants Li Baoping, Li Huai, and Lin Shouyi to carry more than survival in their memories. He wants them to see the world, not merely endure it. So they head toward the city god temple, famous for murals depicting the 18 abysses of punishment. But before they reach it, the city reveals a harsher mural of its own. A procession appears behind them. Young cultivators, richly dressed, moving through the street with the arrogance of people who have never been forced to lower their heads. One rides a black tiger-like mount. Another commands a giant crimson snake. Another carries a huge bow. An old man leads them, looking every bit like a senior figure accustomed to respect. The crowd parts instantly. Not out of admiration, out of fear. Parents drag children away, shopkeepers shrink back. Common people understand the rules better than anyone. When immortals walk through a mortal street, the safest place is anywhere else. Then the red snake begins to intimidate the crowd. Its owner does not control it properly. The beast moves as it pleases. Frightening civilians, a small child cries. His parents try to silence him, terrified that even a sound might invite disaster. And disaster comes anyway. The snake lashes out and strikes the child's father, sending him crashing away and coughing blood. The family flees, the street watches. Some are afraid, some are shocked. Some even seem amused. But almost no one acts as though a crime has happened. That is the true horror of the scene. Not the snake, not the cultivators. The horror is that everyone already accepts this as normal. For Chen Ping'an, this is a brutal lesson. Back in Great Li, order may be harsh, but it still has structure. Here, beyond that system, the so-called immortals can humiliate mortals in broad daylight, and the authorities arrive only after the danger has passed, performing order rather than enforcing it. Lin Shouyi prepares a talisman. Li Baoping and Li Huai stay near the shops. Yulu guides the carriage aside. Everyone understands the danger. Then the old man notices Chen Ping'an's group. He warns his juniors to restrain themselves, not because he cares about the common people, but because he recognizes that Chen Ping'an's side may not be ordinary. The young cultivators look over with curiosity, provocation, and calculation. The snake is finally called back. This is another important point. In this world, restraint is not born from morality. It is born from uncertainty. When the cultivators believed they were facing helpless mortals, they allowed cruelty. When they suspected another cultivation background, they behaved. That is the power structure of the mountain, and the foot of the mountain laid bare in a single street. The two groups pass without conflict, but the silence is heavier than a battle. Cui Chan then steps out of the carriage, casually kicking Xie Xie aside, even though she is not blocking him. His behavior is cold, almost deliberately cruel, as if he wants Chen Ping'an to understand that dignity and humiliation are also tools in this world. Then he says the meaning of the scene plainly. Outside Great Li, this is how things are. Chen Ping'an asks whether the authorities do nothing. Cui Chan's answer is bitterly realistic. Some officials do not care. Some are too afraid. Some are eager to flatter the very people causing harm. That answer lands like a stone. Because Chen Ping'an is not just seeing a city. He is seeing a system, a world where cultivation power, official cowardice, and civilian suffering coexist in broad daylight. A world where justice depends not on right or wrong, but on whether the weak have someone stronger standing behind them. And this is why the chapter matters. There is no grand duel here, no heavenly tribulation, no immortal treasure seized through bloodshed. Instead, Chen Ping'an receives a different kind of cultivation lesson. He sees what strength means when separated from conscience. He sees how ordinary people live beneath the shadow of so-called immortals. He sees why a person who gains power must guard his heart even more carefully than his sword. For Li Baoping and Li Huai, this may be a frightening memory. For Lin Shouyi, it is a warning about the wider cultivation world. For Yulu and Xie Xie, it is another piece on the board. But for Chen Ping'an, it may become something deeper. A seed. One day, when he has the power to stand in the middle of such a street and make everyone lower their hands, will he remember the father who was struck? Will he remember the child whose crying had to be smothered by fear? Will he remember that the foot of the mountain is where the weak bleed quietly? I think he will, because Chen Ping'an has never been about soaring above the world and forgetting it. His path begins exactly here, beside campfires, inside ruined temples, on city streets where noon asked to speak. And as Cui Chan walks forward with his sleeves billowing like some elegant immortal, the contrast becomes almost painful. Cui Chan understands the world as it is. Chen Ping'an is still deciding what kind of world he can accept. So, the question moving into the next part of the journey is not whether Chen Ping'an will grow stronger. He will. The real question is this: when he finally has the strength to face the arrogance of the mountain, will he still carry the compassion of the foot of the mountain?